Day is a moment to reflect on the courage of our servicemen and women to whom we owe our freedom.
And on the 110th anniversary of Gallipoli, our Head of Defence is honouring them at the Shrine of Remembrance in Melbourne. And Richard Miles joins us live now. Good morning to you, Minister. Very good to see you again. I've been down to that service in Melbourne many times. It is so incredibly moving, which makes what we saw this morning in that outburst from the neo-Nazi all the more deplorable.
Well, good morning, Sarah. It is a beautiful ceremony in what you know to be just a wonderful and sacred part of Melbourne and our country. Look, what we saw was obviously terrible and it is deplorable. But in a sense, I don't want to give that any more airtime than it deserves, because this is a day to acknowledge those who have worn our nation's uniform, the very unique decision to serve which comes with wearing our nation's uniform, and of course the 103,000 Australians throughout our history who have made the ultimate sacrifice in wearing our nation's uniform. And this makes it a very sacred day. So much of our national character has been formed by those who have served Australia in our defence forces, and that's really what we should be focusing on today and what I intend to focus on.
I know. I mean, I agree with you, and that should be the sentiment. What can you do to ease how incensed we both feel, how the nation feels about what is such a sacred day being disturbed, Richard? I'm sorry, but it's so appalling.
It is appalling, and you know, obviously I was here this morning and witnessed it, and I absolutely feel that sense of outrage, and I know that people in the crowd did today as well. It is a small number of people, and you know what? Like, we should not be giving them airtime. Today was a beautiful service. Today I want to think about the incredible men and women who, in wearing our nation's uniform, have formed our character and have done extraordinary things. You know, this year particularly, we commemorate the 110th anniversary of the landings at Gallipoli and the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. In those 30 years, you really see the coming of age of Australia. 1.4 million Australians served in both of those wars. The vast majority of those who have lost their life wearing our nation's uniform occurred at that time. And extraordinary acts of courage occurred during that period, which are really at the heart of what we feel it is to be Australian today. Last year, I had the incredible honour of representing Australia at the service at Gallipoli, and I went to the Neck. I don't know if you've seen the film Gallipoli, but it's a dramatisation of what occurred at the Neck. It was, in a sense, an incredibly futile moment, that third charge at the Neck, but there were Australians who rushed to be a part of that, knowing the inevitability of their death. But they just saw that there was something profoundly unfair about the idea that their mate would have to go out of that trench and they would not be beside them. It is an extraordinary thing to do, and yet right there is the sense of camaraderie and mateship which defines what it is to be Australian. And this is the day where we acknowledge, commemorate, and indeed we celebrate that character. And that character is enlivened by the 59,000 Australians who wear our nation's uniform today, who it's my honour to work with. And this is what the day is about, and we should focus on that.
It's beautifully said, and it means a lot. And I know this is personal for you, as it is many people. We lost 40,000 on the Western Front. 40,000. The population of Australia is, what, 4 million. You took a trip, I've always wanted to ask you about this, to France in 2022, to see and visit the field where your grandfather, Percy Pearce, fought in 1916. 23,000 Australians were killed at the Battle of Pozières. Not only did your grandfather survive that battle, but he was awarded the Military Cross for exemplary gallantry. What was it like for you to tread in his footsteps, to feel it?
Well, Carl, it was an extraordinarily emotional moment for me. I mean, one of the things I think is most incredible is this is a man I knew. You know, I can remember sitting with Grandpa watching the cricket. You know, so I have memories with this person. This is not a distant figure whose name is only in history. It's a person who I share memories with in terms of my own life. I never saw him in the context of being somebody who fought in war, and indeed he didn't like talking about it throughout his life, and I've spoken a lot to my mum about it. But particularly, I suppose, holding this role, I've come to want to know more about it, to research what he did, and on that day, it was a bit of a surprise to me. I was taken by a local historian who'd worked through the Battle of Pozières, who knew exactly where my grandfather had won his military cross, found the spot. And I was being led up this dirt track into this paddock, and I was literally saying to the people next to me, "Why are we going here?" And there was this local historian who I'd recognised from earlier in the day, and as I got out of the car, he said to me, "This is where your grandfather won his military cross." I was actually with the Chief of the Defence Force, and to be honest, I thought when he said it, that was a joke. And I said, what's going on here? And as he started talking through the battle, I thought, oh my God, this is really it. By the time he'd finished speaking, I was in tears. The Chief of the Defence Force was in tears. And the thing that really strikes me is in about an hour or so, I'm going to catch up with my eldest son, who's 28. My grandfather was 28 on that day. Wow. And he was a young man who was faced with just the most terrifying moment, a retreat as the Germans had basically pierced the line. There would have been mayhem as people were literally, Australians were running past him, and he managed to form them up and to hold his spot. And in that moment, in a war where literally feet and metres were counted in lives lost, he was able to maintain that line. And it's an enormous moment of pride for me, but to be there and to see it was incredible. I took a photo of that spot, which hangs on my wall in my office in Geelong to this day, and it was really one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had.
Thank you for sharing.
You've got us all in tears telling that story, because it's so beautiful, and it's a story that, it's
But that's what this day
that.
is about, and yeah.
So,
and I think it's, yes, there was something really distasteful and appalling which happened this morning, but let's get past that. Yeah. This is what the day is about.
Good on you.
It is about acknowledging this service, and that this service has formed the nation that we all are today. And it's why, kind of organically, this has become the most important day in the nation's calendar. And I think younger generations get it. They understand that something very incredible happened really in those 30 years, but beyond, of course. I mean, all of those who have worn our nation's uniform since. And I really want to keep the focus of today on that.
Nothing more important.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Beautifully said.
For sharing that story.
Yeah.
And like I was in Villas Breton a couple of years ago, Richard, and my mum sent me a text message saying that my great-grandfather was a stretcher bearer there, and I don't know, you feel this sense of what they went through, and you just don't know because you weren't there, but your family was in this heinous battle. And they did it for us on the other side of the world.
And a man I knew.
Yeah, exactly. The memories, as you said.
Yeah,
Thank you,
exactly
Richard.
Right. And it's
talk to you soon.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
So many stories.
Just like that, right?
Today's all about.